Hi there, I'm Bob Nahmias, CEO of Shibumi, and I'd like to welcome you to our first ever virtual summit. First of all, I'd like to thank our presenters. Over the next few days, you'll hear from some of the most recognizable brands in the world about how they're leveraging Shibumi to execute their most strategic initiatives. You'll also hear from some of the most respected global advisory firms on how they're leveraging Shibumi to enable more effective engagements for their clients. I think you'll find these experiences quite insightful, and hopefully you can leverage some of what you hear in your future engagements. As many of you know, Shibumi normally hosts 2 client and partner summits, once a year in Europe and once a year in the United States. These have historically been great opportunities to bring customers, partners, and employees together to share their experiences leveraging Shibumi to execute strategic initiatives and programs. Obviously, we would much rather have everyone together in person, but this year has posed unique challenges. However, with those challenges have come opportunities. By having a virtual summit, we can get diverse perspectives from around the globe together in a single event. Over the next few days, you'll hear from presenters from the United States, from Latin America, from Europe, and from Australia. Share those experiences in one forum. Our participants have the opportunity to participate without having the normal investment of time, effort to travel around the globe. We hope you'll really appreciate this diverse perspective and the opportunity to experience it in your own time zone. What a year 2020 has been. In many ways, for most of us, this has been the most challenging year in our lifetime. We've had to learn a new normal, and things that we've always taken for granted have been challenged. Executing in both life and business is rarely easy. For this year has posed a unique set of challenges and risks for both organizations and individuals that requires a new level of execution. The events of this year have had a significant impact on the global economy, and as a result, most organizations and even individuals are finding it challenging financially to meet their original objectives for the year. They've been forced to take a closer look, both companies as well as individuals, at the initiatives and the projects that they had planned this year, and determine which of them give them the greatest opportunity to achieve their objectives. However, this fresh look at priorities for both organizations and individuals has not been all bad. Take, for example, the significant decline in commute time for global workers, and compare that to the significant increase in bike sales over the last year, which has been rumored to be over 100% year over year. And what's happened is most organizations have gotten a trial run in having some of their traditional office workers work from home. And those workers, in many cases, would really benefit from being back in the office. However, in some cases, are able to be extremely effective working remotely, and reducing that commute time allows them to spend more time with their family or even work on projects for work that maybe were challenging to do otherwise. So as a result, both organizations and individuals have an opportunity to really focus on what's most important and focus on the outcomes that they're trying to achieve, and often find the most efficient and effective way to achieve those outcomes. Being able to deliver value efficiently from strategic initiatives and programs is more important than ever this year. For most organizations, their timelines have changed significantly this year. In past years, both organizations and individuals would invest in projects that might deliver value over a longer period of time. However, this year, given their constraints and given the challenges that most organizations are facing, they need to focus on initiatives and projects that can deliver value this year. In order to prioritize those initiatives and projects that can deliver value in the near term, it's extremely critical for organizations to truly understand the timeline and key dependencies on the benefit that those projects are going to realize. Since most projects, while they may have value over a longer period of time, in the initial period will actually incur cost. Organizations that need to deliver impact on cash flow as well as EBITDA this year need to have an effective way to understand which projects truly will deliver a net positive benefit in the current time period. Being able to prioritize what initiatives and projects are going to have the greatest impact on an organization is more important this year than ever. Traditionally, organizations have had the ability to manage a large number of initiatives and projects. However, this year, with constraints on both the resources available as well as investment dollars, organizations have had to be more creative and more efficient in finding those initiatives and the approach to managing them that will deliver the greatest benefit. With the large number of resources, spreadsheets, and traditional methods, it is very difficult in our current remote working environment for organizations to be effective. They need to come up with modern ways of both collaborating, communicating, and tracking those key initiatives that are going to deliver value over time. When organizations are facing challenging times, like many organizations are this year, there tend to be three core ways that those organizations can drive improved performance in a short period of time. The first and most obvious way is through cost optimization. Most organizations will try to identify a large number of initiatives that can reduce costs in areas like headcount, supply chain, operating expenses, and many times potentially deferring large capital projects. While cost reduction tends to be directly controllable by an organization, it is often difficult to drive significant reductions in operating expenses without having the impact on the service or offering to your clients. It's for this reason that many organizations looking to do cost reduction need to carefully prioritize initiatives that are going to have a high business value to the organization and a reasonable level of risk. It's for this reason that most organizations would prefer to improve performance through innovation initiatives that identify new market opportunities that the organization can take advantage of. Like any other innovation ventures, it requires the organization to evaluate many different ideas to determine which ones have the ability to offer scalable value to the organization with a reasonable amount of risk. And after those initiatives are funded, have the ability to make sure that they're continuing to deliver the value at a sustainable level over time. Finally, many organizations may find that the most efficient way to drive performance improvement in the near term is through strategic transactions. These transactions may be in the form of acquisitions, mergers, and even divestitures of business units that may not be core to the organization's business. In each case, they're the result of many ideas that have been evaluated and analyzed to determine which can have the greatest impact on an organization's performance, both in the near term and sustainable over time. We're really excited that over the next few days, you'll have the opportunity to hear directly from Shibumi customers and partners about how they're leveraging the platform to drive cost optimization in their organizations. You'll hear about use cases like robotic process automation, where Shibumi is helping those organizations turn a technology capability into a true strategic lever to drive efficiency in their business. You'll hear from organizations that are optimizing their procurement processes to make sure that they're driving as much cost as they possibly can out of what it takes them to produce goods and services that they bring to market and improve their margins. You'll hear from organizations that are restructuring their organization in many cases and finding key ways to remove the spans and layers so that their organization can be as efficient as possible, again, to drive better profitability and more effectiveness in the market. However, Shibumi-enabled programs are not just all about driving costs out of the organization. Many of our customers are leveraging the product to drive innovation and revenue growth, often by identifying a set of initiatives that can have a significant impact on top-line revenue. Many of those organizations are looking for ways to break into new markets and determine if those market opportunities are profitable and when they can bring a return to the organization. We even have clients that are using Shibumi to make the clinical trials process more efficient, which I think we'd all agree is probably the most important process in the world today. Many Shibumi clients and partners are leveraging the platform to execute strategic transactions, whether it be acquisitions, mergers, or divestitures. They're using the platform all the way from the pre-acquisition or transaction process of identifying the potential acquisition targets, all the way through to building the business case for an actual acquisition and managing the pre- and post-close activities, and most importantly, tracking some of the synergy and value that is going to be delivered once a transaction is complete. So why do so many organizations trust Shibumi with their most strategic programs? It's because there's a common thread across each of these organizations and programs. First of all, they have a large-scale set of business outcomes that they're trying to achieve, significant goals and objectives. Those goals and objectives require that organization to go and identify a set of very specific initiatives that can help them achieve those outcomes. And each of those initiatives has a business case around it, a set of quantifiable, measurable value that will be delivered when that initiative goes live. And each of those initiatives have a set of costs. And it's important to understand the true ROI, not just at one point in time, but over the life cycle of that initiative. The organization also needs to be able to prioritize. Since there's a finite set of resources and funds available, they need to understand which initiatives are going to give them the greatest impact, both near term as well as over the long term. Once a set of initiatives is funded and an organization decides to execute, they need to have a clear plan and a timeline around the set of activities it need to execute in order to achieve those outcomes. And the only thing we know about every plan is that it's going to change. And over time, as that plan and those assumptions change, the organization needs to be able to react in real time to make sure the most important set of objectives are actually executed and the organization achieves a set of outcomes that they hope to achieve. And as those changes happen and trade-offs need to be made, the outcomes are optimized and the organization is able to deliver on those objectives. Shibumi gives each organization a very unique ability to execute this at scale in real time. Now I'd like to introduce to you Mark DiGirolamo, Shibumi's Chief Customer Officer, who's going to share with you some of the very valuable things that Shibumi's been working on this year to help accelerate the time to value that our customers are getting from the platform.
Thanks, Bob. Over the last year, we've made a huge amount of progress developing and releasing new platform capabilities. And we continue to get great feedback from our customers and partners to improve the Shibumi platform. With all this activity, we've really focused our efforts into 3 core areas. We believe by focusing in these 3 areas, we'll be able to supercharge your strategic programs and make scaling business benefits easier than ever. It all starts with apps. There's so much great business capability in the Shibumi platform. Often, picking and choosing what capabilities to use and how to implement them takes valuable time. Apps package up these capabilities into predefined, easy-to-use solutions that can be implemented in hours. Working with one of our industry-leading partners, they have apps ready to go, out of the box, pre-configured to get your strategic program delivering business benefits in record time. These apps are a huge piece of the scalability puzzle, but the other is creating beautiful and intuitive user experiences that keep people coming back to Shibumi. That's the next area we've focused on, Shibumi's user experience. Our work in this area has culminated in a completely new design system based on Google's material design. Our design system is really 2 things. The first is a refined and updated user interface. This is the look and feel of Shibumi when users log in. In our coming releases, you'll see more and more of this new user interface. The other component of the design system is a set of usage patterns, as they call it in the user experience world. This represents a set of best practices based on how users interact with Shibumi. As we've been developing our own internal apps, we've been in parallel creating our best practices and common usage patterns. This will be a living document we'll all use to guide us as we're configuring new apps in the platform. The last area of focus is a continuation of the work we've been doing for years around the core Shibumi platform. Effectively managing a strategic program from setting objectives all the way to delivering business benefits requires an extremely capable system. Our mission remains simplifying and scaling that process. What we'd like to do now is show you some live examples. I'm going to highlight 3 areas where Shibumi is simplifying strategy execution. I'd like to start with how Shibumi helps you determine which initiatives will be executed on and when. With the major changes to the economy and world we've been experiencing in 2020, everyone has to be more careful when deciding what to invest in and when to expect results. As Bob mentioned, this is what we've been focused on since the start of the company. A critical component of an initiative is clearly defining the cost and benefit timelines. When do we expect to incur costs, and when do we expect to realize benefit? Because Shibumi tracks this information over time, it allows us to provide tools and techniques to zero in on which initiatives to invest in. With our scenario builder, simple sliders allow you to filter down whole portfolios of initiatives to the ones that deliver on your desired timelines and risk tolerance. These scenarios are then saved for further analysis and comparison. With each, benefit and cost timelines are clear along with overall and cumulative benefits. Given the need to deliver near-term benefits, we may want to shorten our time horizons to 6 months. This triggers a resorting of the initiatives that are candidates to be implemented. It also updates the net benefit timeline and scenario savings number. We now have a very clear picture into the initiative portfolio and which initiatives meet the new criteria. This can be saved as a new scenario and shared with the executives and stakeholders of the strategic program. Now that we've determined which initiatives we'll be executing on, I'd like to walk through another example of how we can integrate into existing applications your teams are already using. Let's jump into a cost transformation program and look at the initiatives that are sitting in the implementation phase. With Shibumi managing the program, we get clear visibility into performance against targets and where the initiatives sit in their life cycle. Let's open up Finance and drill into one of the initiatives. For each initiative, we can see where it sits in its life cycle and its expected benefits. But remember, benefits are realized over time, and most of the time are dependent on something being done by the organization. Let's take a look at the activities to see what needs to be done. It looks like we have 2 activities we need to complete. But I'd like to call attention to Release 6. This is an example of our integration to Jira. Release 6 is being managed in Jira, possibly by another team within the company. Changes made in Jira find their way back to Shibumi and could have big impacts to this initiative. Let's bring Jira into view and make a pretty common change. Let's say the due date has slipped by a month. Pretty easy to make that change, but what's the impact? Well, we can refresh Shibumi to see the changed date, but some other things just happened too. Let's move over to the Financials tab. This is where we define and manage the benefits and costs of the initiative. This is what allows us to build the scenarios we saw before, among other things. When I click into the benefits, I see their detail and can manage their timelines. This one happens to be dependent on Release 6. We can see here the benefit start date is now before the release date. This is the true business impact of making that change in Jira. Shibumi can react to this change in many ways, one of which is calling attention to it. As a result, we've sent notifications to the interested parties about the slippage. These notifications can be customized to include any level of detail. In this case, simply describing the slipped dates and the financial impact. But most importantly, the business now has true visibility into that simple date change in Jira and can react in real time. For the last example, let's move to the benefits realization stage. Let's also take a look at another strategic program, in this case the RPA COE, providing cost and time savings for the company. This program has identified a bunch of opportunities for automation, and like the cost transformation program we just looked at, is managing them through a life cycle. In this case, I'd like to see all the opportunities that are already deployed. We can do this through simple filters, or click over to the Deployed tab for some more detail. Now let's drill into one. This is the summary of the opportunity. It had a pretty high score of 83%, which is probably why it was picked for deployment in the first place. But what I really care about are the benefits, the expected and the realized. We already have some realized benefit, which makes sense because this automation went live a couple of months ago. This is benefits realization in practice. But how do we know we've realized 11,000 in benefits? Let's first see how we set our targets. This is the business case that we captured for this opportunity. For an opportunity business case, it captures things like how many people manually perform this process and how long does it take. This serves as the cost and time savings potential for automation. In this case, we expect to save $80,000 or 300 hours per year. Now that the process has been automated, we can tap into the execution system to mine real-time performance data. In this case, one of our technology partners, Blue Prism, is the automation vendor, and through our integration, we're pulling the actual performance data of the process. This same approach is used for all initiatives, whether you call them initiatives or opportunities or projects or something else. By defining the costs and the benefits in Shibumi, you set the performance targets. Prioritize based on those expectations, then compare those targets to real-time performance data post-implementation. This is the Shibumi approach in practice.
Thank you, Mark. Well, it's great to hear from us. What I'm most excited about is that over the next few days, you'll have the opportunity to hear directly from our clients and partners about their experiences and how they're delivering more successful initiatives for their organizations. We hope you enjoy this conference.